Team USA should be allowed to have more athletes represent them at Worlds and Olympic Games, and here's why. So, for those who don't know, I'm going to explain how the system works and why there should be an exception for Team USA. So, right now, each country in the world who's competes at World Championships for athletics, they're allowed up to 3 athletes in each competition. For example, if you're Team Canada, if you have 3 qualifying athletes at the 100-meter hurdles, you can send those 3 athletes to represent you at the global championships. Given that they've run the qualifying time for the championships and they placed top 3 at your nation's national championship, right? There are a few exceptions where you can have more athletes. I'll go into that later. But now back to Team USA. So Team USA has a load of talent, guys. Team USA consistently every single year has people in every event that could win national titles or other national championships in different countries if they represented those countries. Here's an example. So let's use the men's 100-meter dash. This year, Noah Lyles, Kenny Bednarek, and Fred Kerley were able to go to the Olympic Games and represent Team USA. And as we saw, they are truly one of the most elite sprinters in the world. They all made the final, with Noah Lyles and Fred Kerley getting medals. But let's look at 4th place, Christian Coleman. Who is this guy? Well, let me explain. Christian Coleman is the world record holder in the 60 meters indoor, one of the fastest men of all time. He's a world championship in the 100 meters and many more things, right? And he happened to get 4th with a time of 9.93. This time of 9.93 would have broken so many national records for many other countries, and if he would have represented those other countries, he would have gone to the Olympic Games and possibly beaten Noah Lyles, Kenny Bednarek, and Fred Kerley there. But because of these rules for the Olympic Games, you can't take more than 3. Christian Coleman, unfortunately, despite being one of the best athletes in the world, he was not able to go to the Olympic Games. And Christian Coleman is the type of athlete who's going to perform at finals more often than not, as his resume shows. And then you have Christian Miller, who ran at a time of 9.98. Anything that is sub 10, guys, is elite. And he's a high schooler. And he was peaking, he was running times just as fast, if not faster, during this time of the season. So if he would have qualified for the Olympics, due just for his time, maybe, just maybe, he would have ran like a 9.90 at the Olympic finals or Olympic Games. You never know. But when you have these type of athletes that are running elite times, but they don't place in the top 3, I believe there should be an exception to allow these athletes to go to the games, because we know that maybe they're not the best in the country, but they are the best of the best in the world overall, right? They just happen to compete for an anomaly of a country where the best of the best in that country means that you're most likely going to be the best in the world, and that means the rest of every other nation. For example, that means that 6th place here or 5th place could be the best in the world. In this case, it's not, but you guys know what I mean. And here's another event that I would like to show you. The women's, let's go to not the men's 400. There's another good event. The men's hurdles. Here's a great example. Grant Holloway, Freddie Crittenden, Daniel Roberts, and Cordell Tinch. Even Jaqueline Scott. All of these guys should have been at the Olympic Games competing for a medal. And specifically Cordell Tinch and Scott, because these times, sub 13:10, these are times that you run at a global final, sometimes getting you a medal. And for Cordell Tinch, he is an athlete that ran 4th place in this national championship, 13:03 season best. That time would have won him the Olympic gold medal in Tokyo over the Jamaican who beat Grant Holloway that year. So you're telling me this guy is not worthy to be in the Olympic Games just because he came 4th? If he would have came 4th in some country like Bahrain or Qatar, then you're not even gonna go. Shoot, even second or third place at the Qatar National Championships, maybe even first place, those guys are not. They shouldn't even be in the Olympics because they don't even have the time to qualify. But Cordell Tinch has the time. He may not have the placing for his nation, but his time, I believe, outweighs his placing in the national championships for his country. This is a way more impressive time, and it should be taken into consideration that this athlete is not your typical fourth place athlete. Even this fifth place guy, 13.09, that's an elite hurdler overall. He should be in the Olympic Games, but unfortunately he did not get to go. So now that you understand my case, I believe since the United States is the best country in the world when it comes to sports. They make the best athletes. They have the best sport culture overall. Better than Russia, better than China. They might not be the best in some sports, but overall they just have the best genetic and talent skilled pool overall, as history shows with the gold medal counts and medal counts overall. And this applies to track and field. Therefore, I believe World Athletics and the Olympic Games should make exceptions for athletes from the United States, because athletes of the United States, such as an athlete like this woman right here, we know that USA athletes are capable of running very fast times. Not just one of them, but many in each event. Some of those losing times that those Americans run are winning times in other nations. So, given that, you need to change the system, and I'm talking to World Athletics and Olympic Games. Change the system where if you run a certain time, an elite time that's worthy for a global championship final, that you should be able to go to the games regardless if you win or lose. Let me go back to this example. If fourth place and fifth place, if Tinch and Scott ran like a 13:21, because 13:15 is a solid place. Shoot, 13:21 or above, then they shouldn't even be at the Olympic Games, because they're significantly away from third place. That's hypothetically speaking. That's if Cordell Tinch ran a 13:21 and Daniel Roberts ran 12:96. If the distance between their times was that much, then this fourth and fifth place guys, they shouldn't go to the Olympics, because relatively speaking, they're not even close to their top three. But this fourth place guy, and I'm gonna give some respect to the fifth place guy, they are relatively close to being the best in their nation. And guys, running a sub 13 hurdles, 110 hurdles is not regular. This is a very elite, rare performance. This is an elite, rare top three. There's never been a time like this. There's never been a race like this. This is an outlier. And because this is an outlier, there should be an outlier privileges, specifically for the fourth and place guys, because they also performed very, very well. They just happened to run against an outlier top three. If this were a regular championship final, which they're always fast, I am betting my money that Cordell Tinch would have definitely placed probably top two with this time of 13.03. Remember, this time beat Grant Holloway in Tokyo, and Grant Holloway is the most dominant track athlete of this generation, more than Noah Lyles, more than any other athlete, maybe even more than Karsten Warholm. Honestly, he's the most dominant track athlete. I'm not counting Mondo Duplantis. So back to the main point. And here's another example. So let's say that that's my case, guys. I think I've made my point enough, and you guys get it. The United States has too much talent that is not displayed at the global championships. We know that many of their fourth, fifth, sixth, even seventh and eighth place runners, guys, even some of their semifinalists and some in the first round, they just don't happen to be healthy. Many of those athletes that just make the championships for Team USA and the highlight events like the 100, 200, 400, maybe not the 400, but like 100 specifically, those events, there should be exceptions where you allow a lot of these athletes who do not come in the top 3, let them prove themselves at the final if they run an elite time that is worthy of being at the global championships, or a time that wins many national championships. Going back to Christian Coleman, 19.93. I mean, what else can you do? Remember in 2017 when Justin Gatlin won the world title over Usain Bolt? He ran like a 19.92 or 94. I think it was 92. And then second place was a 19.94 and then a 19.95. Like, all those guys were in that 19.9 mid-low range. And that was medal-winning times. And then you're telling me 7 years later that Christian Coleman, world championship, one of the fastest men of all time, this guy here with a 9.93 isn't worthy of going to the Olympics or going to the championships. I think that's messed up. Oh yeah, here's my final point. Promise I won't make this long. Track and field is an athlete where you are not at the top for a long time. And the United States provides many good athletes who are like cannon fodder or filler for most of the world's races. Like, in every single race around the world, you will find at least one USA athlete competing in that event or something, but they'll perform well. And due to that just shows that they have so many great sprinters that just don't have the opportunity to display their talents at the global stage, because even though they're great sprinters, they're not the cream of the crop in their nation. They would be the cream of the crop in a different nation if they represented some other small nation, but they just happen to represent the best nation in the world in terms of talent pool. And it sucks. Many of these guys are training their butts off. They would be way bigger stars than some of the other nations' stars, but they don't get the chance to go because of the rules. I mean, what can you do, guys? I know it's a good system to just filter out the best of the best, but at the championships, if the best of the best were there, the global final, guys, without a doubt, most of the time would have 5 or 6 Americans. No lie. Maybe the rest of the world peaks enough to make the world final diverse enough, but there are some years where I believe that the global final for any championship, Olympic or Worlds, USA can have literally the whole final taken. Seriously. I don't think it would be the case today because there's so many great athletes around the world in small nations like Julian Alfred for the women's or Latila Tobago for the men's. But back in the day when USA was on top or had that rivalry with Jamaica, there was many more guys that could have been in that final. They just didn't qualify and represent their nation. But I made my point. The next video is going to go over certain athletes, and the next video is going to tell and explain why I believe some athletes should transfer allegiance and represent other countries to extend their career. And it kind of ties into this video, so stay tuned for that.